Good afternoon, everybody. It's Andrew Beach. I'm an executive career coach. I'm a teacher of self education. I help professionals communicate their value to find great opportunities faster. And today is Friday. It's Career Happy Hour. In fact, you'll see a hashtag there, Career Happy Hour. That's what we're using here every Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time. I will be broadcasting live for your benefit to offer you absolutely free career coaching. If you have any questions at all, go ahead and leave them in the chat on the side of the screen. I'm happy to answer. It appears today is November the 22nd, and we are having a difficult time on LinkedIn Live. It's not operating. So we are broadcasting to LinkedIn Live, but for whatever reason, I don't see it in my notifications, and people are asking me, where is this thing? So when all else fails, head on over to YouTube. I'm broadcasting there at the same time. And I do appreciate you being here today. If you have any questions at all, I'm happy to answer. So whatever it takes, I'm here to support your success. So there's a number of things that really happened this week that I think bear some repeating. And we also have here in the United States, we have Thanksgiving next week. And this is a time where families come together, and it really got me thinking along the lines of listening and hearing. There's two different skills required. Most people can hear. I think that's normal. I think we can all hear, right? That, maybe there's a situation in your life where you heard somebody, but you weren't really listening, and vice versa. Maybe in a work situation where someone you were communicating with couldn't really hear you, and so that can be a challenge. That can certainly be a big deal. So if you are joining me, let me know where you're joining from. Put any questions you have in the chat next door, and I'd be happy to answer here on today YouTube. So if you have any questions, I'll be monitoring the chat and be happy to answer anything that you have. By the way, I have two new episodes of the jobseekersradio.com. You'll see those on the screen here next to me, that will allow you to learn a little bit more about my philosophy. I have a co-host, Scott Picard Jones, and he and I actually really play off each other really well. So if you're interested in learning more about how we approach job seeking, go ahead and actually access the podcast. We have two new episodes. One came out last week, which was what to do when you just can't find full-time work. That was response actually to an article that was posted here on LinkedIn. I know we're broadcasting on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Periscope, and I'm going to need to check my settings for all of those streaming platforms so that we can make sure that you still have access to this wonderful broadcast. So that's the first one. And so the one we have coming out next Wednesday is actually a Q&A episode that Scott and I did, and really the theme of that one is what to do when you're stuck. If you're in a position where things just aren't going your way and you feel stuck, we give you some ideas around that, and we answer a handful of questions from listeners like yourself, people that come to the podcast and ask us questions, or something that I learned from some of you folks here on the stream. So again, it's Career Happy Hour. That's the hashtag we're using. Answer any questions that you have. Please put those on the screen. So first of all, this is what I'm talking about in terms of hearing versus listening, is this idea that often when we communicate, we may hear and listen, but we may not know exactly what that person said. And it's important that you hear that person, yes, but hear them well. What do I mean by that? Make sure that you understand by reflecting back to them what you thought you heard. Based on what you're saying, this is what I think I heard. Is that right? That's called active listening. It's repeating back, repeating and affirming what they said so that you can make sure that you're both on the same page. Okay? The other thing to do is what is really being said? And is it something that you are translating wrong? Meaning there could be a word usage that isn't the word usage you think it is. For example, I was talking to a gentleman just yesterday, in fact, And he was telling me about some things going on in his company. And I mentioned, I have an interest in customer experience and candidate experience and employee experience and all these things that rely on reputation management within a company. And he said, that sounds like voice of customer. I'm like, that's interesting. So when you tell somebody something, sometimes they're going to translate that back to you based on what they heard. So this is an opportunity for you not only to hear better, but to communicate better. Meaning you may want to modify the way you're presenting your own personal brand by using different language based on the audience you're approaching. And that takes some effort to go out and actually understand what is the audience talking about. And if I present it one way and someone gives me some feedback, let's not take that personally like we did something wrong. Let's say, okay, maybe I need to make an adjustment in how I'm presenting myself. Now, this can apply not only to networking, but interviewing, anything to do with your brand. And so that brings us to a lot of things that many people don't spend a lot of time on, and that's active listening technique. So the first active listening technique that I've ever learned was taking notes. So if I want to make sure that I understand what somebody's saying, I'm going to take notes because my memory's good, but it certainly isn't perfect. I'm going to take notes because I want to remember and I want to be able to reflect back to them what I heard. So not only am I taking notes on what they said, but I'm taking notes on what I thought they said, which is a little bit different. And so then I can actually refer back to it and then ask them a confirming question. I think what you're saying is, would it be okay to make an observation? Can I get some clarification on that? It's okay to do that. In fact, in an interview, often we think we have to be perfect and we can't ask any questions of clarification before we actually answer the question. I think what you're asking me is. That's an active listening technique. It's translating what they asked you about so that you know you're answering the question the way they want it to be answered. Certainly from the position of your brand, that would be beneficial. So I still see that it hasn't come up on LinkedIn yet, so I apologize to those folks who are eagerly waiting here on LinkedIn to gain access to the stream. Because I am streaming, it's just not showing up on whatever platform I'm using. Restream. So if you have Restream and you know anything about how it works, I'm happy to take some input, some advice. So that's the first technique, take notes. The second technique is repeat and affirm. Repeat and affirm means, hey, I think what you're saying is, or even you repeat exactly what that person told you. Okay? Wow, you have really good voice of customer expertise. I think what you're saying is, I have really good voice of customer expertise. So anyway, repeat and affirm would be, wow, you have some really good experience in voice of customer. That's great. So I repeated it and then I said an affirmation. So not only do they know that I heard what they said, but they also get a shot of oxytocin, if you will, by getting a compliment. Good job. Way to go. How often in the job do you actually get kudos or someone say, hey, way to go? Not very often, right? And so that's something to be aware of when you're going through a process of interviewing or anything else, is make sure that you have practiced that art of repeat and affirm. Repeat and affirm. So taking notes, repeat and affirm, and then make sure that you also wait for them to finish. And so they know that you're actively listening if you look them in the eye, sign of respect, and you wait for them to finish. Sometimes that's a count backwards from 3, 2, 1 before you respond. I don't like counting 1, 2, 3 because then you're like, okay, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. So anyway, count 3, 2, 1. And then be grateful. Thank them for any input that they give you and thankful for helping you actually be a better listener. And we're going into the holiday here, the Thanksgiving holiday here in the Americas, and we're going to be around family. Often we have a preconceived notion about what those people are about. No family is perfect, and we may be hearing them, but we're not listening. Let's do our very best this holiday season to actually listen and provide people a little bit of leeway when it comes to understanding. Because I've actually quoted quite a lot in the last few months Covey's 7 Habits, and I don't have the book because I find it a little dry. But I actually love the audiobook. And his voice isn't the best voice, but certainly you get a better feel when you listen to the audiobook on what he's really talking about. So get the audiobook for 7 Habits if you can't consume, or just get the framework. There's a lot of great items in there that relate directly to job search, and they relate directly to, let's see if it's coming in. Looks like we got a new notification. Nope, it's not coming in. So I apologize. I hope you have a great weekend. You have a happy Thanksgiving if you're celebrating. And all the best to you. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and leave them here on YouTube. And I will post this video actually to LinkedIn, so you can actually leave questions there as well. All right, folks. In lieu of getting any questions here on YouTube, I think I'm going to sign off now. I do appreciate you and everything. If you have any interest in coaching or training, I do have a website, andrewbeach.com, that will lead you to all the resources that you need to be successful in a professional job search. All right, folks, have a great weekend. Be well. Take care. God bless.